You ever see those headlines about interest rates or job numbers and wonder, why does that actually matter to me? Well, it turns out it affects, well, pretty much everything, from your grocery bill to your career path. Today, we're going to zoom out and look at that big picture. We're talking about macroeconomics, the giant system that connects it all.
Okay, so the best way to get this is to think about a forest. You've got microeconomics, which is like getting up close and studying a single tree, one person's budget or how one company sets its prices. But macroeconomics, that's where we step way back. We're not looking at one tree anymore. We're looking at the entire forest, its health, its growth, the whole ecosystem of a nation's economy.
So, what is that big picture, really? Well, simply put, macroeconomics is the study of the economy as a whole. We're not getting bogged down in the details of one specific company or industry. Instead, we're asking the massive questions like, why do some economies boom while others struggle? What really causes unemployment? And how do we handle something like rising prices? You can almost think of it like this. An economist is kind of like a doctor for the entire country. And just like a doctor, when they're trying to figure out if their patient, the economy, is healthy or sick, they don't start by checking every single cell. Nope, they start with the vitals, a few key signs that give them a quick, clear picture of what's going on.
And when it comes to the economy, there are three main vital signs we're always checking. These are the big ones: gross domestic product, or GDP, the unemployment rate, and inflation. Think of them as the core numbers in an economic weather report. Each one tells us something incredibly important, so let's break them down.
All right, first up, GDP. This is the big kahuna. It's basically the total value of everything a country produces. Every car, every cup of coffee, every single service. So when you hear on the news that the economy is growing or in a recession, 9 times out of 10, they're talking about GDP. It's our main measure of economic horsepower. Now, it's not perfect, right? It doesn't measure happiness or the health of the planet, but for pure economic output, it's the #1 metric.
Next, we've got the unemployment rate. And this is so much more than just a number about joblessness. It's a signal of how well the economy is using its most valuable resource. It's people. See, a low rate usually means businesses are feeling good, they're hiring, and people have money to spend. A high rate? Well, that signals the exact opposite, and it's a major red flag for the economy. And our third vital sign is inflation. You've definitely felt this one. It's simply the rate at which prices for everything are going up. Now, high inflation is a real problem because it just eats away at your purchasing power. The money in your wallet literally buys less than it did before. But here's a twist. The opposite, deflation, where prices are falling, can be just as bad, if not worse. It's often a sign of a really sick, shrinking economy. Okay, so we've got our vitals. We know how to check the economy's pulse. But what happens when things go wrong? When growth slows down or prices get out of control? Well, policymakers don't just sit on their hands. They have two big toolkits, two powerful levers they can pull to try and steer this massive ship back on course.
And those two big levers are called fiscal policy and monetary policy. Let's break them down. Fiscal policy, that's the government's lever. It's all about how they tax and spend our money. Then you have monetary policy. That's the central bank's job. Think the Federal Reserve here in the US. Their main tools are interest rates and the overall supply of money. So two different sets of tools run by two different groups. So let's dive into fiscal policy first, the government's lever. If the economy's in a slump, they can kickstart it with what's called expansionary policy. That means cutting taxes so you have more money to spend. Or maybe the government spends more itself on things like roads and bridges to create jobs. But what if the economy is running too hot and causing inflation? They do the exact opposite. They pull back with contractionary policy, raising taxes or cutting spending to cool things off. All right, now for the other lever, monetary policy, run by the central bank. Their #1 tool, interest rates. It's pretty simple, actually. If they want to get the economy going, they lower interest rates. That makes it cheaper for you to get a mortgage or a car loan and for businesses to borrow and expand. But if they need to fight inflation, they jack those rates up. That makes borrowing more expensive, which slows down spending and helps get prices under control.
So we've talked about the vitals, we've talked about the tools, but look, this isn't just some boring textbook theory. This big picture stuff has a direct impact on your wallet, your job, and the decisions you make every single day. And if you're running a business, this is where the rubber really meets the road. I mean, think about it. Are you thinking about expanding? Well, the interest rate is going to decide how much that loan costs you. Are you trying to figure out your pricing? The unemployment rate tells you a ton about how confident your customers are feeling. And if you deal with anything overseas, you better believe you're watching those global trade winds. So let's pull all of this together. The point of understanding all these big forces isn't to perfectly predict the future. I mean, nobody has a crystal ball. The point is to have a much clearer view of what's happening right now, so you can be way better prepared for whatever comes next.
And honestly, this quote just nails it. Macroeconomics is like the weather report for your business. You can't control the weather, right? You can't stop it from raining, and you can't control interest rates or GDP. But if you watch the forecast, you know whether to grab an umbrella. By understanding these signals, you can make much, much smarter decisions. You'll know when to push forward, when to hold back, and how to set yourself up to win no matter what the economic weather looks like.
So I want to leave you with this thought. All this knowledge, it isn't just trivia. It's a tool. It's a powerful one. It lets you look at all those headlines about GDP and inflation not as scary, confusing noise, but as a forecast, your forecast, one that can help you navigate your career, your money, your business. So the only question left is, now that you can read the forecast, what are you going to build?